Hi there. I'm Charlotte Cheney, and this is Soul Connections. It is August 13th, 2018, and tonight we're going to talk about self-care. And I'd love to hear from you. So if you're out there, let me know. Write a comment, push your like button. My kids are like, Mom, you got to say smash your like button. I don't really watch videos. I don't see people do that, but evidently that's what you do. So I just want to talk to you about self-care, and I want you to think about it. I want you to think about yourself and if self-care is a comfortable topic for you. Are you comfortable thinking, do you care for yourself? So if you are aware of me, you know that I have come up with a system called SEEP. It's SEEP, and it stands for spiritual, environmental, emotional, and physical. And those are 4 areas of our lives that I believe that when we have them in check and we're familiar with ourselves in those areas, it's one way of really developing self-care. So I have written a journal. It's a soul work journal, and it helps you take some time and go and discover for yourself how you feel in those areas. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about why self-care is important. I imagine maybe you were like me thinking self-care sounds selfish. It sounds like self-centered. I grew up in an environment where it was really important that we put others first or thought about others. And so self-care, hey, Lisa, how are you? Thinking about others versus thinking about myself was how I was raised. But in reality, I am not able to care for others if I have not cared for myself. And so to give you a little bit of a background on how I know this is because I had cancer in 20. Oh, hey, Robin. Oh, awesome to see you. I had cancer diagnosis in 2011, July 1st, actually. And so I spent the next year basically going to doctor's offices. I had to declare that I could not be a mom for the most part for my 4 sons at the time, or be a wife. I had to really take care of my body if I was going to live. I'd had to really dig deep into this recovery. And so I had to let other people serve me. And that's very difficult. If you've been in a situation where you've had to be served by other people and you're not comfortable with that, you know what that's like. It's really hard, but I had to let that happen. And so in 2012, and about a year later, I was recovered. And hey, Gina, I was recovered and I was ready to get back to my life. And I noticed that my 4 sons that I had somewhat put on hold for the year while I was in recovery had gone on with their lives, and in a lot of ways didn't really want their mother involved. They had been living kind of with more freedom than I had given them in the past or was willing to give them at this point. And so there was a lot of hardship and kind of coming back to that situation. Thank you. So I had found myself devastated. I found myself devastated. I kind of thought, okay, well, I fought for my life. I'm going to go back. I'm going to, hey, Tiara, I'm going to go back. I'm going to jump into my life. I'm going to be who I was or want to be or better. And I found that the people around me were not tracking with me. And so I was devastated. And I mean, really devastated. I found myself, I remember like one time my youngest son was playing Legos with me and I was laying down on the floor playing with him and I couldn't get up. I was in so much pain emotionally. And finally got myself to a therapist office, and I was a basket case. I mean, if I were to describe how I felt at that time emotionally, I would feel like the bottom of a rag, of a mop, like just these, just absolutely gross and just so tired. And I showed up to her office and she said, well, Charlotte, you need to take care of yourself. And I was like, what? No, I have been laying in bed for like the last year and I need to take care of these children. Hi, Martin. I need to take care of these children. And she said, no, Charlotte, if you take care of yourself, it will affect those around you. Now, if you know my story, you know that I was also in an emotionally abused marriage at the time. And so, like, I was holding things together and pretending and hoping that things were one way, but they were not at all. And I was in total denial. And so I was just driving this ship that was really a ship of lies. And I was really, it was such chaos, but it looked together. So anyway, she taught me that by taking care of myself would be like taking a pebble and tossing it into water, and then the effects of it would ripple out. Thank you, Tiara, into the people that I loved. And I was so desperate for understand. I mean, I could barely breathe. I was in so much pain. And so I said, okay, I'll do this because I don't really have another choice. And so we began to go through this process, and I began to become in touch with my soul. And that is really where my SEEP program comes from. It comes from the work I did when I was a basket case. I was out of control, and the last thing I wanted to do was put time and energy into myself. I didn't want to pay attention to myself, because it's so much easier when you're busy and you're stretched and you're running fast, and not to think about, well, what am I doing, or who am I, or how do I feel about this? So what if it hurts too much? I remember at one point that same counselor, she was such a great one, and she said, Charlotte, you need to start feeling. And I remember just bristling at the thought of feeling. I was like, I can't feel. I was afraid it was going to be too painful. And so I was living a lifestyle, and for me, it's not substance. Maybe it was food or something else, but just, I didn't want to feel. I didn't want to feel what was going on. And I look back at it now, I didn't want to feel the pain in my marriage. I didn't want to feel the pain of raising these teenage children that didn't love me the way I thought they would, or treat me the way I thought they should. I didn't want to face that. And I learned to do it. I learned to feel. And so this is my journal. And so if you get it, if you go through it, it's laid out really nicely that you can go through on a daily basis. And so when I look at the S and I say, how am I doing spiritually? Now, where I'm doing spiritually may be totally different than where you are spiritually. And it should be. It absolutely should be, and I'm on my journey. So this is, where am I spiritually? So I'm going to take time, and I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to fill this out and say, okay, well, hi, Liz, how are you? I am, on a spiritual journey, but I'm not where I want to be. So I need to identify where I am, and then where I want to be, and then think about the steps in between. But the point is that I'm going to take time, and I'm going to think about it. I'm not going to just let it go up there. I mean, a lot of people don't want to think about eternity, or they don't want to think about their spiritual life. Hey, Liz, a lot of people don't know what they believe, and that's a pretty big deal. I mean, it's okay if you don't believe what I believe, but you should take time and know what you believe. Do you believe in God? Do you believe in Jesus? Do you, what do you believe? Because that is really, really important to who you are. And that knowing who you are really strengthens your core into what you believe. And so that's something that we all need to spend time and evaluate. What do I believe spiritually? And this is a great tool if you want to use it. Take time and you write it down. There's prompts and questions on here. The question, I'll read it off here. How do I feel spiritually? Do I feel connected with God? What is one thing I can do to grow spiritually? So these are the same questions that you can just ask yourself each day, and hopefully you grow from the past. So the next subject matter of the SEEP program is environment. Now, for me, I was in an emotionally abusive marriage, and it was a lot easier if I didn't acknowledge it, if I didn't take it in, if I didn't digest it. It was a lot easier if I denied it and created these big hopes of what I thought it was and pretended it was that and just made it look what I wanted it to be. So when I had to start my healing journey and I took time and I started to evaluate my environment, I realized, you know what? Ouch. I was in an environment where I was giving of myself over and over and over. Hi, Stephanie. And that type of giving was not returned. In fact, there was a lot of taking. I longed for words of affirmation that did not come. I longed for touch and care and confirmation that I was loved and important, and that did not come. And so when I stopped and really evaluated my environment, I realized, whoa, this is awful. It was just absolutely vacant. Hi there. And lonely. And it took me to figure that out. It took me to evaluate my environment to figure that out. It took me that I had to take time and figure it out as part of my healing process. Maybe my environment was like it is today, and it's great. I have a great home. I have a great husband. I have a great family. And, maybe for me, environment today is more like, oh, well, I wish I was better at the cleaning process, or I wish I made my home look more whatever, so it's not, not everybody's in the type of environment I was in, but it is really important that you pay attention to it. And it could be your work environment, it could be your home environment, it could be, who knows, but just checking in with your environment. And then also, if you find yourself in an environment that is not comfortable and actually is painful like mine was, it is okay to change your environment or to change yourself to better live in that environment. There's my kitty. So sometimes, let's say you're a young child and you have a parent who is not treating you well, who is not honoring you and treating you with respect, and maybe you can't leave, but you can start setting boundaries. And so you can let somebody else's words and criticisms and corrections and all these things that hurt you, you can set up boundaries and you can stay in that environment and deal with that. And I personally was not able to do that in my marriage. So I left, and thank God I did, because it was really good for me. So the next subject matter on the SEEP here is emotional. How are you doing emotionally? Do you sleep? A lot of people put their heads on the, hey, Lori, a lot of people put their heads on the pillow at night and they can't sleep, right? There's a lot of activity going on, or, maybe there's someone in your life that you dread seeing, or maybe you have a regret. I know a lot of people, men and women, honestly, who have regret from abortion or something like that. And or maybe you've done something, or something's been done to you. Maybe you've been sexually abused, or, abused, or something, bad has happened to you, and you're hiding it. You don't want anyone to know. Or maybe you've got an addict in your family. I know what that's like, right? And so you're hiding that person's addiction. And so you're out trying to pull it together and look like you've got it together, but really inside there's some pain. And so when I do my SEEP work and I get to the emotional part, I have to ask myself, okay, do I need to go back to counseling? Do I need to go to a 12-step program? Do I need to have a conversation with someone? Do I need to talk to God? Do I need to be forgiven for something? How am I doing emotionally? And checking in with yourself is hard. It's hard because you may not want to see what's really there. And then the last part of the SEEP program is physical. And this can really run the gamut. How am I doing physically? Am I exercising the way I want to? Am I eating well? Am I mad because I have some physical limitation and I can't do what I want to do, or I can't do what other people can do? Am I jealous? Am I doing the best I can do with what I have going on? And so physically, and so, for me, physically right now, I have to say I'm really at a really happy, content place. I have mentioned to you before that I have Lyme disease, and I've done treatment for it. It was really helpful while I was doing it, but it's I'm really feeling arthritis kind of come into my hands, and I'm going to do more to that. And so really taking care of myself physically. And I'm going to be 50 this year and hope I don't look it. But anyway, I am realizing, boy, I'm not going to have the ability to physically do all the things that I wanted to do. I'm really beginning to realize if I'm going to do something like jump out of an airplane or something, I had better do it quickly. So kind of evaluating what I want to do physically, where I am physically. And so here we are. So this is called a soul work journal. And this is designed to help you decide where you are in these places and get in touch with yourself. So SEEP, SEEP, spiritual, environmental, physical, and emotional. So a little bit back to the self-care as a topic at whole. Perhaps you're like me and you know someone who is in an abusive relationship or in a toxic relationship, and you just want to go up to that person and just shake some sense into them and say, hey, really, you're staying with this person? I mean, I have several people in my life. I'm just like mortified. I'm like, how can you let this person treat you this way? And they're not hearing that. And I'm going to tell you from experience that if you've got a loved one who is being mistreated in a relationship, you can't just go up to him and say, hey, you need to leave. Okay. That person has ended up in that position because something was missing inside them, and they were looking for fulfillment from the wrong person. And they're going to probably hope and pray that this relationship's going to work out and that there's going to be a change. Abuse goes in a cycle, right? And so it gets really, really low, and the person is ready to leave, and then all of a sudden the other person comes in and starts showering them with all the things they know they love, right? Because that person knows what you love. They know your love language, even though they don't use it, only to keep you there, right? And so just for example, every time I went to a hotel, I would get enormous bouquets of flowers. And that's really, really typical. And it's short-lived. It's not something that was sustainable. And so when you've got your loved one who is in this vicious cycle, my suggestion is that you model self-care for one thing and help lead them into self-care. When that person, hi, Amy, when that person is caring for themselves, they're going to recognize that the abuse that's coming at them or the mistreatment or whatever is not part of that self-care plan. And they're going to start recognizing that they're in a situation that's not okay. And so they need to figure that out on their own. You can go tell someone they're in a bum situation, but unless they figure it out for themselves and start developing their own core strength to get out, they will stay there, and they will be under the illusion when the good times come that's going to last, and chances are it's not. So another thing about self-care I think about are my children. So Brian and I have 8 children, and 6 of them are 19 through 24. And thank you. And I'm just like, you got to take care of yourself. You got to go. All my boys have their wisdom teeth. I'm like, you need to go have them taken out. You need to go to the dentist. They're old enough now that I'm not able to make those appointments for them. Like, you need to go to the dentist. You need to go get a physical. You need to get your blood work. I mean, unfortunately, my kids are going to have colonoscopies at a young age, and they don't want to hear it. It's not really part of their paradigm. They're having fun. They're like, wow, most of them are over 21 and just living it up. And the last thing they want to do is go to the doctor, right? But that's part of self-care. That's the physical part of self-care. And I told them, I said, listen, kids, I am touting myself to be a self-care expert. And if you guys are not taking care of yourselves, that is not okay. So, and I want them to. I want them to go to the dentist. I want to make sure they have healthy gums. Those gums are like the gateway to your heart, right? So you got to go to the dentist, take care of yourself. So getting these young people to take care of themselves is a chore. So we can model it for them. Right? I'm modeling it for them. That's the best I can do. One thing I noticed with my youngest son is he watches me closely, and I left a toxic environment, and he saw that, and he saw the self-care that was a part of that, and I've seen him make decisions that are self-care even if I don't like what he's doing. He, or it just he goes between homes or whatever, and he has to make decisions for himself in a lot of ways, and he's doing what's best for him. And I'm realizing, wow, that's because you've been watching me. And so if you're a parent, if you're an aunt or an uncle, or if you're someone that someone else is watching, are you modeling for them, or are you sitting back making horrible choices, or just escaping your reality and hoping that your child is going to make the right choices? It's not that way. You need to do it. You need to batten down your hatches and take care of yourself. And this journal is a great starting place. And if this is not in your, it's $20. And if it's not in your budget, I understand, but do it for yourself. Take a little circle and write SEEP and check in with yourself and see how you're doing. And because you're modeling for someone. So anyway, that's my spiel on self-care. If you have something to add, I would love you to do it now. You could do it while we're here. It's been really fun to have all this interaction and have people here. And I'm gonna come live every Monday. Tonight, I was out having crabs with my family, and I left the table and came here to be with you because I want you to know this is serious business, and I want to be here for you, and because I care about you, and I want to make sure. I think the world's be a better place if we could all take care of ourselves. So anyway, there we go. That's what we have it. I'm going to end in a prayer, and here we go. Dear Lord, I just thank you so much, God, for leading me to the counselor that taught me how to care for myself, Lord. And I'm so sorry that it took me so long to learn to care for myself, and that my body is a temple for your Holy Spirit. And I was not treating it that way at all. I was not concerned with how I was providing for your Spirit within me, Lord. Lord, I just pray for each and every person here today. You know exactly what's going on in their life. I ask that you would help them each to understand that there's nothing they've done that is unforgivable, that you love each and every one of us. You formed each and every one of us and brought us to this earth, Lord. Lord, I ask for anyone who is seeking, that you would just help answer questions to them, help them to reach out to the right person. Maybe it's me, maybe it's someone else, Lord. And Lord, I ask that each and every person would sleep. When they put their head on their pillow, Lord, that they would sleep. And if they can't sleep, God, that they would find resources to help them understand why they can't sleep, Lord. Lord, I pray for everyone's environment. I pray that they are healthy and places that they can thrive. But Lord, if they're not, that you would help them to understand where they are and the changes that they need to make, whether it's within themselves or within the external environment, Lord, to get themselves in a new place, God. And I thank you for providing for me in that way, the way you did. I pray for the emotional, whatever people would find out, and for physical, Lord, that you would help each one of us to care for our bodies and do what we need to do, Lord. And Lord, thank you for this technology where we can connect right here, God. In your holy name, amen. Good night. Thanks for being here.